So if we're going to wrap this discussion up, this is the 6th part in this series. If we're going to wrap it up, the question is, so what do I do if I find myself in a relationship with a narcissistic person? What do I do?
Well, you could take the approach, first of all, you have to know the problem at hand. You have to know that there is something wrong here, and usually you do know on some level. The codependent person must realize on some level that they're not being heard, that they're not being noticed, that they're invisible in this relationship, that it seems like everything that happens is going her way or his way, that nothing goes my way. It's not a two-way street at all. First of all, they got to realize that's a problem. And then at that point in time, they've got to somehow muster up the strength to stand strong and say no once in a while to this individual. And my God, when they do, they're going to get the wrath of God. It may be through pouting and not speaking to you anymore and withdrawing. Well, I'll show you. I just won't speak to you anymore. I'll just stay quiet for a whole week, maybe a whole year. Or they may get the wrath of God to come down on them. What do you mean you say no to me? I'm the king. I'm the queen of this house. Everything is my way. You know that. They have to be strong enough to withstand that if they're going to stay in the relationship.
Yeah.
If you're a child, of course, you have no choice. You've got to stay with mom and dad, even though they're complete idiots. You've got to stay there. But when you're in a marital situation or a partner situation, if you want to stay, then you've got to stand. You've got to learn to stand strong and say that no. And you have to really love this person and admire this person, and know that there's something more there to maybe stay with them and try to help them through this. I think that's what or just leave. I mean, I guess that's the other choice, but that's kind of sad because there's no real help there. There's no real breakthrough for anybody. It's a real opportunity for this person who has codependent tendencies to become stronger. It's a real opportunity for that person to recognize, hey, you know what? I give in all the time. I let myself become invisible. I let myself become a dish rag, a doormat. And so they have, once they recognize that, they can become strong. It's also an opportunity for them to break through the narcissistic personality that they're living with, the person that they really love but can't reach because they're so wrapped up in themselves. There's no room for them.
Right.
So if they really love them and they really want to help them, it's an opportunity to maybe try to help them too.
Mm-hmm. Well, another phenomenon that took place during the 80s and 90s was the rapid expansion and growth of 12-step groups, which had been around for many, many, many years, but particularly through the 80s and 90s, 12-step groups, more and more of them, a group for just about everything that could possibly be. Overeaters Anonymous, everything anonymous. But the concept is really great because it's about looking at yourself and realizing that you need help. Recognizing a higher power, recognizing that I am powerless myself to solve this problem. As soon as you think that you've got the power to do it, you start making all kinds of mistakes and putting resistance in the wrong place and creating all kinds of problems. And so there's a sort of a surrender factor that I think is a characteristic of 12-step groups and what they brought to us that is really important for people to understand. I cannot fix this myself. So you do need to look at your higher power, and you look at yourself and realize that one day at a time I have choices to make. I didn't get here just by accident. Maybe I'm just waking up to it now and realizing the problem, but it's been happening, and I've been participating in it and making choices all along that have enabled this thing to happen. So what are the choices that I've made that have enabled this thing to happen, and how can I start making new choices on a daily basis, every day, to wake up, realize, number one, I can't fix it, but number two, I've got to make choices on my own. What are those choices? So we make a choice to either stay with this person or to leave. If we stay with the person, we also need to look at the choice of, can we be an us, or is it going to be me against them?
Yeah.
Because if you set up adversarial relationships, in your boundary setting, the problem is you haven't, through your choices, you've let boundaries slip. And now you have to reestablish boundaries, and there's a lot of choices and things that you have to do. But in the midst of doing all of that, you got to be really careful that you don't set up an antagonistic or adversarial relationship between you and this other person.
Yeah.
It's got to be an us. And if you can't come to the us, then maybe you should just leave, because there may be no hope if you can't find that us. It takes a lot of forgiveness. Forgive the other person for acting the way that they do, but at the same time hold them responsible. And there's a fine line that you...
Well, like I said earlier, it takes a very strong person
Yeah.
to maintain that, to
Yeah.
be there on that line
Right.
where they are forgiving the narcissistic individual, and yet they are seeing that they need to remain strong, and they get this individual who says it's my way or the highway, and,
Right.
and they have to say, okay, it's your way, but then there's this little bit for me too. It's almost kind of a gradual evolutionary thing where they have to kind of ease their way into it. And and my God, they're saving two souls in a way. They're saving their own, and they're saving the narcissistic individual.
Well, there may be children involved too, so maybe a lot of souls.
That's it too, yeah. It's so sad.
See, the flying boy, it's easier for the flying boy to just say, I'm out of here, and go start a new relationship. But see, when you find yourself in a tough situation like this, I got to live with this person, I love them, I get the children to consider and so forth, so I'm going to stay here. But it's going to be a rough row to hoe. Very, very difficult process. Flying boy says, I'm out of here, I'm going to start over again.
And today's world,
You got to
flying
decide.
girl as well.
Well, that's right. Now you got to decide, am I going to fly or am I going to stay? If I'm going to stay, I've really got to make sure that we're building this thing. There's got to be a lot of communication, initiating communication, understanding that sometimes the communication will backfire and you wish you hadn't initiated communication because it turns into a big fight and argument.
Yeah.
But to continue to work on that and trying to clear the air. Again, the scene that we painted before of the house that's all boarded up in darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal is to take the boards off the windows, bring light into the house, install skylights. You do that a step at a time, bringing light into it, restoring the relationship, restoring more us feeling, finding home with this person again, building mutual self-respect in every way that you can, bringing forgiveness in wherever you can, give and take, and so forth. And hopefully it'll be successful, but the key to it is you looking at yourself. Not a strategy to try to change the other person, but a strategy to see what I'm doing to try to change it so that I'm a light bringer into the relationship rather than just another codependent darkness creator as I have been for all of these years.
Well, the narcissistic individual, one thing that just occurred to me while you were talking, which is so huge in all this, they really don't know the taste of love, not affection, not reverence, not the kind of love where they are almost a mother's love, where they are regarded and cherished and really loved, and there's the trust level. They've never tasted that. So they don't know what it tastes like. They lived on this kind of what I call plastic love all their lives. Mm-hmm. The gifts, the pat on the head just to get rid of you, or whatever.
Yeah.
They lived on that kind of superficial
Right.
love. They've never really felt real love.
So if there's anything that you can do for this individual, if you've made the choice to stay with them, it's to give them that.
Yes.
Give them that pure love. Really be able.
Much
If
as
you
you
can't
can.
do that, you got to look at yourself and say, how can I forgive them enough to give that to them?
That's
But then also at the same time setting boundaries, because they're going to keep wanting to take from you the way they have always taken from you. You set up the boundaries so that's not happening anymore. But at the same time, you don't close yourself up because of your resentment towards this person because you're labeling them as narcissistic.
Yes.
Instead of doing that, you forgive them, you respect them, you give them the love that they need, and hopefully, if things work out well, the genuine article is going to be so much better than what they were getting before, that slowly we start to actually reroute the flow of this creek or this stream, and the waterfall starts to happen, not through a strategy to change the other person, but through a strategy to just bring light into our home.
Absolutely.